The preliminary patch notes for patch 5.3 have been released today, and so this is following that we are going to be getting patch 5.3 in about 4 days from now. And so for anyone who isn't really sure what preliminary patch notes are, just in case this is your first time hearing about them or new to Final Fantasy XIV, they are essentially patch notes that come out a few days before the actual patch, and they don't actually represent the final patch notes. And so the final patch notes are released a few hours before the actual servers go back up, or roughly the night before is how you could basically go at it. And so this will be missing a few things like the job changes, just for, I suppose, balancing reasons, just so I guess people can't really play up the meta before like a raid hits, which is not coming this patch, mind you, but just so that I guess people just can't pre-formulate ideas. So if you're looking for things like bard buffs, summoner nerfs, and all that, this isn't going to tell you it yet. You're going to have to wait until the night before the patch drops. And so a lot of this information is going to be mostly review. So if you have come from one of my other videos covering this, there's not a whole lot new information here. Generally, the broad strokes are going to be the exact same as you've already heard, but there are going to be a few new tidbits in here that I do think are worth talking about. So first things first is that we have main story quests added, which is extremely common for every single patch that we have. And so the main thing to look at here though is that we have 2 new quests as requirements. So we need My Little Chocobo from whichever of the Grand Companies you're with. And so if you aren't familiar with what a Grand Company is, you can select from either Ul'dah, Limsa Lominsa, or Gridania to be a part of their Grand Company, which is kind of like their war effort for that particular faction. And so just to have My Little Chocobo quest done with any of them. And then the second one is a Light of Hope, or the Light of Hope. And so this is going to be the quest line from the Crystal Tower section, in case you aren't super familiar with what that is. And so 2 big things definitely to get out of the way before this patch hits. And so if you haven't done that already, try and do that in the next couple of days before, just so that you don't get left behind. The next thing up is going to be our new Alliance raid. So we are getting Yorha Dark Apocalypse raid is going to be getting its second iteration here. So previously in patch 5.1 we were getting the first part of it, and now we're getting the second part. And so I am extremely looking forward to this one. And likewise, if you haven't finished that, definitely look into patch 5.1 Yorha raid. In fact, I have copied factory guide up on this channel already, and so if you're looking to just get started on that, I am going to try and have a card at this exact timestamp location. Try and check that out, and I am sure that you'll love it. I actually really do, especially for that Type 2B leggings. Really worth it for the glamour, even if you aren't interested in anything else. That glamour is top notch. The next thing is we have the Sorrow of Wurlit, and so this is going to be kind of the second follow-up to what we have. How to say it? Every expansion we have what is called like extreme trials, and so if we were looking at Heaven's Ward content, we were having things like Sophia, Zervan, and Sephiroth, and not to be confused with Sephiroth, Sephiroth. And then we had last expansion, we had the like little animal thingies like Suzaku, we had Byako. And now, for this expansion, we are basically going through the Final Fantasy VII Ruby weapon, and now, and by interpretation of it, the Sapphire weapon, especially when you look at the quest name, is Sleep Now in Sapphire. And so, trust me, I am going to be farming the absolute heck out of this. As soon as the servers open up, I am going to be, like, grinding this content for that dragon, because, oh my god, I want the Sapphire Dragon so badly, you have no idea. Next up is actually a quality of life change that we have, or a lot of players have been looking for a few of these things. And so the weekly restrictions for Gift of the Archmagus, Primal Focus, and Proto-Ultima Heat Shielding, or better known as Unidentified Flying Object, have been alleviated. And so in terms of each of these, what can these get you? So when you are talking about Gift of the Archmagus, this will give you 1 Aether Oil. And so Aether Oil is something that you need 5 of in order to complete the Heaven's Ward Relic quests. And so these are going to include massive things like the Terpander Lux Bow. These are going to include the Deathlock Lux Machinist weapon that you see me use through basically all of my machinist footage because it's that epic. And it is going to be huge for anyone looking to grind out those. And honestly, I think that this is a really good thing because previously, Alliance Roulette really, for some players, was mostly used to get through this, and I think that this is going to be a huge help for a lot of players for that. Primal Focus, I'm not going to lie, I have not really done that, so it doesn't really help me, but the guaranteed rewards from it is that you're going to be getting a 3 blue Rowena's token, and so I think that that is going to definitely be helpful for some people, but it's not really something that excites me. The Unidentified Flying Object quest, however, gives you extremely good looking glamour, and so it's kind of these glowing pieces that you see me wear in a lot of my armor is where I like have these glowing blue accessories, and trust me, I love them, and I really do suggest if you haven't picked up these accessories for your glamour, definitely consider doing it. Next up is that we have new side story quests being added, and so these are going to include things like custom deliveries and Faux hollows, and so definitely looking forward to seeing what we can actually get from that. Likewise, these patch notes aren't including much detail on that, but judging from some of the side quests like this, there's probably going to be some stuff definitely worth getting into. The next thing is that we are going to be getting the Dwarven Beast Tribe quest, and so this is likewise going to have its own Beast Tribe currency and Beast Tribe vendor, and so that's going to have some really good loot as per usual. We can probably expect things like mounts, minions, a few glamour pieces maybe, but overall definitely looking forward to this. And they even have a picture of this little tank here, and honestly if we can get that as a mount, oh, give it to me now. I want to ride around in a tank. But again, just speculation. It's one of those things where it's like, I really wish it happened, but I'm not fully convinced it will. Sadness. The next thing is the long-awaited Realm Reborn quest revamp, and so you're going to likewise see a whole ton of different changes to it there. They aren't even documenting all of the changes here. We can see that some of the main story scenario quests have had their requirements revamped, and we have seen it where they are apparently showing that, hey, this quest has been adjusted, please abandon the quest and restart it by talking to Minfilia at the Waking Sands. Pray return to the Waking Sands. Like the least thing that anyone wants to hear. Another thing that is a part of this revamp is now we can fly in the Realm Reborn areas, and so me looking at finishing all of the Realm Reborn relic weapons, this is like such a huge quality of life change. I am so excited for it. Now, a few things that have worked into changing for flight is that the quest I Believe I Can Fly has now been removed, and players now need to complete the main scenario quest, the Ultimate Weapon. And so after that, you apparently can fly, and so that's actually kind of exciting for a lot of people. I'm definitely looking forward to that change just for everyone. Likewise, there's going to still be a lot of Pray Return to the Waking Sands and people going, oh. But apparently we're getting Aetheryte tickets from what we heard before, but I'm not seeing anything mentioned in here on that. I might have missed it, but I don't see it here. But I've heard that there are tickets coming, so look forward to that for sure. Another thing is that we have quest icons have been changed to indicate elevation, and especially with the flight changes, there are some quests that you get above you or below you, and it's sometimes really frustrating to tell, like, how high am I supposed to be? Especially when we're getting into some of the late game maps. I'm not going to give any spoilers here, but some of the late game maps, it's like, am I supposed to be way up here or way down there? And then another thing is that the new chapters have been added to the New Game Plus, which includes everything like Gladiator quests, Marauder quests, Conjurer quests, and all of the different other job quests. And so there's a lot of people who might want to play back through some of that, and I can definitely say the Dark Knight quests are what I am looking at, so I don't actually see them here. But one day, hopefully. So very exciting news for anyone who does treasure hunt maps is that there are new rewards that have been added, and that your item level is now going to be synced up to 505, and so likewise we're going to be able to explode the hunts even faster, and so I am looking forward to that. And I am really curious what kind of glamour or housing items we're going to get from this, and new market. I trust me, I am looking forward. I really hope that it's some really cool new armor. in terms of grand and free companies is that now we have new missions for submersibles, and so anyone looking to be doing like those aquatic voyages is going to get a little bit new stuff and just have a few new destinations, and so that's very exciting news for them, I suppose. I'm really wondering what this could be, what kind of materials we could get, because we have seen things like marine wax ester where we could get special candles for our housing items, and so maybe a few new really cool items are coming from this. Let's hope. And now let's talk about these furnishing items, because this is one of my favorite parts of this. And so from the first screenshot we can see that we are getting this kind of like little nook area where we have like this bed or sofa with these drapes. I'm loving that. We have on the ground this little sofa area that looks super cozy, and then we have these like really regal looking, like straight out of Yulemore. Oh my god, did I say straight out of Yulemore? Straight out of Yulemore drapes, and they are looking so good. I am so looking forward to using them, honestly. We have other things, like we have that beautiful cat hamburger that I fangirled over before. We have pipes that we can now put on our wall, and so if you're going for that steampunk vibe, that's going to be so good. Next up, we have these like cracked windows, and so likewise, I'm feeling that Nier Automata like copied factory vibe so much from this, and I am absolutely living for it. I think that that is so cool. And then we have this little pond area where we have these little flowers in it, and trust me, I am... my creative juices are flowing on this, and I'm like, this could look really good paired with a few items. I'm definitely looking forward to getting back into housing on that. And then we have some outdoor furnishings, which includes this tent here, which is definitely looking like it's being inspired from the Stormblood areas. And then we have this little camp area, not camp area, this like barbecue thing here. And oh my god, I don't want to change my front yard, but you know what? This is making it really, really hard to not want to. I'm super duper excited for that. And then more new furnishings are added. I'm not sure why it's in its own separate section, but this is like the Nier Automata like doors, and kind of giving me that Nier Automata fantasy like through and through. I'm really curious how this is going to work. We also have a bench, totally looking Nier Automata inspired. We have a wall partition, we have a light, and then we have these like custom graters. I'm not sure if that would be exactly floor placed or not, but it's looking really cool. Now we have a few more outdoor items, which includes this like walkway, which might look really cool when you're going over ponds. And then we have this pointy tree thing. I'm not really a fan of the pointy tree thing, but I can definitely see myself using that walkway a lot, especially when you combine it like with ponds. I definitely see potential for that. And then last but not least is we have Yorha and Hrothgar mannequins, which I am super looking forward to because we haven't had them before, and I think that these look a lot better than some things like the default row that I've been using. Other things that we have is that there are new orchestrion rolls have been added. Likewise, no details have been given on that. New aquarium fish have been added, and so we get this big thick boy looking shiny fish. I'll have to see it in game to know exactly how it looks, but this is looking kind of interesting for sure. And then we have new seed for flower pots, and so we're getting daisies, and I am definitely looking forward to that. Now we are seeing a new seed for gardening and flower pots has been added, and likewise looking at this, we're instantly going to be getting melons. So they're calling them Allegan melon seeds, and I think that that's actually going to be cool. We're going to have to see what melons can actually be made into or what we can use them for, so I am super duper curious what this is going to look like in the end. So for the Manderville Gold Saucer, we have a few updates here. So the first one is one that I don't really fully understand, which is the average wait time will no longer be displayed when queuing for chocobo races. I don't know if that's supposed to be a good thing or really ominous, because it's like, why are you removing that? Is it just too long and people get demoralized? I don't know. That's actually content that I personally don't do, so I really don't know. But I'm like, why? I'm scared. I'm very scared. I don't know why. And then Triple Triad has brand new cards added and NPC opponents added, and so that is going to definitely be really cool for people who do that. And I know some people might meme on it, but there are actually like hardcore Triple Triad stands. Like if they added a mount specifically for people who use Triple Triad, kind of like you look at the Tiger mount for hunts, and like you need to be a really good hunter to have that Tiger mount. That's like 3,000 A ranks and like 2,000 S ranks. Like if you see someone with that Tiger mount, oh my god, total respect. Like if they added a mount just for Triple Triad, you'd see a few like really rare mounts around, because there are definitely some really hardcore Triple Triad stands. And then, anyhow, moving on to the next point, we have Domin Mahjong has an explanation of the POW penalty now displayed when triggered, and that the position of the cursor when selecting the tiles with the gamepad has been adjusted. And so this isn't a game mode that I have personally done too much of, but likewise, this does sound like really good quality of life change, and so props to everyone who is looking forward to that. Next up is going to be the Faux Hollow as well as the Wondrous Tales section. And so the Faux Hollows are basically described as relive harrowing battles of your past in the form of unreal battles to create gripping tales you can share with the peculiar talking fox. It looks like it's out of Animal Crossing gone wrong. It scares me. This NPC scares me. But basically, what you can get is that you are going to be doing duties that you've already done before that are meant to challenge people who have reached the current level cap of 80, and basically just present some challenge to you. And then you can... trust me, when I sigh, it's because my RNG is so bad that I know that I'm not even gonna try. But basically, with Faux Hollows, you can do this mini game where if you get things in a certain order, you can get some particular reward. For me, I look at this and I'm like, oh, this is Wondrous Tales, where I literally have such bad RNG. It is legendary. And so anyhow, basically you can get some grand retelling, and then this allows you to complete an Unreal Trial, access Faux Hollows, and then you can access one retelling per week apparently, and that you can exchange faux leaves for just particular rewards. And so one example that they're presenting on the screen right now is going to be this choker with Kate Sith on it, and so I am definitely a really big fan of that choker. I think that is really cool. It's one that I actually shockingly do want. It's just so weird, but I'm never gonna get it, so moving on. So other changes to the Wondrous Tales is that when receiving rewards, players now receive experience points in addition to their reward after completing 9 seals or collecting 9 seals. And so I think that that's definitely going to help people who are leveling up. That's going to be a huge perk. And then players who have not reached level 80, Disciple of War Magic, may choose from 2 rewards rather than 3. And so this basically is, how to say it, 3 rewards. I think maybe the phrasing is a little bit off. 2 rewards is like the baseline, but if you're still doing these, instead of not getting things like experience, you're going to be getting instead 3 rewards. And so I think that rather than looking at as you're not getting 3 if you're getting below, as just like it's trying to make up for the lack of experience. Then another thing is that prizes available in exchange for clothes, gold certificate of commendation, or silver or bronze certificate have been adjusted, and so that they've basically added items that were previously prizes for Wondrous Tales into the exchange, and so we're gonna have to wait. There is no details given here, but I can only assume things like the emote that is mentioned right below here might be a reward from it. Of course, I don't know, purely speculation at this point, but I think that that might be a reward, but we're gonna have to wait and see exactly what the rewards are later on. And that there have been a few additions and changes made to the challenge log, and so things like successfully desynthesized 5 items has been added, and then successfully affix 5 materia, however, has been removed. And so I'm feeling a little torn, because affixing materia, do you necessarily do it every week? No, heaven knows I surely don't. And so maybe it being removed is a good thing. I don't really see why you'd remove something, but come see, come saw. But what you have is successfully desynthesized 5 items, and so I think that that's a good thing, because through just doing a lot of adventuring, you will come across a bunch of items, and so I think having the option to desynthesize items that you don't need and get a little bit of a push to know that, hey, the system's here and it could be good, is actually a really good thing. Just get more people in. So at the start of the video, I said that there are no job changes in here, and so to no one's surprise is that the descriptions of certain actions and statuses has been adjusted, and so we're gonna have to see what exactly that turns out to be, but it's not being listed here, as well as just the updates to the job skills, like how much potency did summoners apparently lose from some of their skills, how much potency did Bard get, what skills were adjusted, is it going to be on their raid DPS skills like their songs or battle voice? No one knows at this point. We will find out a few hours before that patch actually hits the servers, and so unfortunately we don't know at this point. But what we do get is that the period of invulnerability after being revived will now be indicated by the Transcendent status effect, and so that's going to be useful. And so for anyone who's not super familiar with this, if you're revived during something like raid, you will be invulnerable to things like raid-wide AoEs for a limited time, so long as you don't commit to some action. Like if you start spamming skills, you're going to start taking damage, and you will get rid of what we're now calling this Transcendent status effect. But previously this was just something that was kind of invisible and implied and learnt through experience, but now we actually are getting a status icon to actually say, hey, you're invulnerable for this specific amount of time. And you can move during that phase, but you can't take action. Like if I spammed like heavy shot on Bard, like that would be no bueno. But now we're getting a little bit of information, and so that's always helpful to have. And then another thing is that Blue Mage is getting an update where we can change the name of active sets in the Blue Magic spellbook. And so if you had something like Healer with Buffs, or Shield DPS Pew Pew, or AoE My Laugh, there's something ridiculous in there. Now you can actually give it that name in game and have that kept on there, so that's really going to be cool. Now next up is going to be that new dungeon, which is the Hero's Gauntlet, has been added, and so likewise it requires an average item level of 460 or above. 4 players, 90 minutes time limit. It's very, very standard, and with the item level of 460, it's very, very accessible. 480 gear has been available to purchase from the market board, and still for pretty cheap if I'm being honest. So it's a very obtainable item level for sure. And then another perk is that we are getting experience point bonus will now be granted when completing dungeons for the first time, and so that is going to be really helpful for people who are leveling through. So if you go through something like the Aurum Vale, which we're going to get into in a second, then the first time you go through that, you're going to get a little bit more experience. And so I think that that's going to be really good, because it's like when I queue up for like leveling dungeons, you hear that there's going to be some bonus, and honestly I expected the bonus to maybe be like experience. I've never honestly even checked it, but apparently not, because apparently it's being added. I have learned something new today. I feel really dumb, but getting into the next point about things that make me feel dumb. The coin counter in Aurum Vale finally, after all these agonizing years, has finally been given telegraphs for his ability. Isn't that amazing? That's amazing to me. I am so hyped about this, because honestly, this is like the encounter that all newbies, including myself, my first few times, were like, what is going on here? And now we have the ability to actually tell what could potentially kill us. And now we have a few changes made to exiting instance dungeons. And so the contents of treasure coffers in the following dungeons have been adjusted to ensure players receive gear of a suitable strength. And so basically, players are going to be getting a weapon or piece of armor equipable by their current job upon completing dungeons. And so these are listing out a whole bunch of leveling dungeons from A Realm Reborn, and that you can't receive items already in your inventory or armory chest. And so basically this is also helping boost up the Realm Reborn leveling experience, because I think that that is something that is so important, because that is going to be the first impression of a lot of players. And so this patch is definitely making a very clear and concerted effort to make the lives of new players better. And I honestly think that this is so important, because I think that A Realm Reborn has been, for the past many years, a very much a down part. And I think that that's really to the downfall of the game as a whole, which, I mean, obviously we're doing great. Obviously I'm happy. Obviously I love this game. But you can't tell me for a fact that Realm Reborn wasn't a major downer, and that's going to be a lot of people's first experiences. It's not going to be Heaven's Ward, it's not going to be Stormblood, it's not going to be Shadowbringers. And so this definitely has probably turned away a lot of people. And so I'm really excited to see this kind of change, because seeing the upgrade to this is just so super important, because it's like you want to give people the best first impression you possibly can. Next up is that we have a new trial being added. Likewise, this is being hidden, and so likewise, since this is hidden and we've already seen Sapphire Weapon, I guess that this isn't the Sapphire Weapon. I'm like, oh, okay. So I'm really curious to see what exactly this is going to be. Is it going to drop a dragon? Please make it drop a dragon. I really want a dragon. I really want more dragons. I am so hyped. Like every expansion, like Realm Reborn, Heaven's Sword, whatever else, is that we have had mounts that you can collect, and then you get some ultimate mount at the end. I'm really hoping that it's going to be like the most wickedly cool dragon ever at the end. So give me more dragons. I really want this to be a dragon. This isn't gonna have a dragon, is it? But I could wish, can't I? Alternatively, this could be something like Memorandum or something like that, where it could be tied likewise to Bojan's Southern Front and the Blades of Gunhildr relic line for the Shadowbringers expansion. We don't know. It's hidden. We're gonna find out likewise later, and so I am super excited for this. We're gonna have to see, but it is after the main scenario quest. Question, and so could it maybe be something tied to the Hero's Gauntlet? Maybe. We're gonna have to see. I'm really curious though what this is gonna do, and I am praying that this drops a dragon or something really uber cool. I'm really a fan of those dragons. Oh my god, I want more. So now what we're getting is gonna be Unreal content, and so I am getting so worried with some of these names, because I know that it makes sense to me, and I know it makes sense to most of my viewers because we've been here for so long. It's just like we have normal content. Okay, sweet. Then we had hard content. Okay. Then we had extreme content. Okay. Then we had savage content. Okay. And then we had ultimate content. Okay. And now we have Unreal content. I am so worried that people are gonna get confused with this. But basically, Unreal content is just trying to breathe life back into old content. And again, this sounds so similar to like the Faux hollows, and so you can see that requirements are fantastic, Mr. Faux, and so I'm assuming that this is what it was referring to earlier on, and so likewise we can see rewards from that. And so if we actually flip over onto the special patch site, we can actually see that we see this like different tinged colored horse. Mind you, I am not the biggest fan of horses. They're not dragons. Sorry, you're getting complete bias on this one, but they're not dragons, so I'm like, that's nice, I guess. Sorry, I'm like super biased. I want, like, I'm just like, oh, okay, a horse, yay. And then I want to just bring attention to painfully Ishgardian man being listed in this requirements. That's all I have to say. Okay, I'm moving on to the next. So the next update actually is going to be really important to new and returning players who have hit the 5.3 content, especially because I talked about the Hero's Gauntlet requirement being level 460. And so what you have now is the weekly restriction on rewards from Eden's Verse has been removed, and so essentially you can collect little tokens through all of these 4 raids, and then you can use them to exchange for 480 gear. And so this is going to be now a very good way to quickly get up all your stuff. And likewise, the number of Blades of Golden Antiquity required to exchange for a Perdurable Tombstone has been reduced from 7 to 4, and so Perdurable Tombstone, I know someone's going to meme on that in the comments, but basically that is what you use. This Perdurable's Tombstone is what you actually use to upgrade your weapon, and so that is going to be very helpful for a lot of people. I am super duper confident on that. And likewise, yeah, that brings us into our next point, which is the Alliance Raid Dungeon actually has now got a little bit more details here. I wish that it was at the top. But basically, it's nothing that we haven't heard before. Essentially, this is gonna just be like normal raid, where you can only roll on one particular piece of loot every week. You can only get the weekly rewards once every week, and likewise, each party in the Alliance is gonna receive its own treasure chest, and yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about it. But it is interesting hearing how it says the contents of the chest is going to be identical regardless of the route taken. What are you saying here about route taken? I don't know if I've ever seen that before, but a little bit of spoilers. Maybe there's different routes taken in this raid. Obviously, I don't know, so that could be really cool. I'm looking forward to that. So interesting to everyone who hasn't gone best in slot on their particular characters who has a lot of tombstone gear is that now the items required to enhance equipment can be purchased with Kupo nuts. And so that is going to be really exciting to a lot of players because some of my gear sets honestly don't have full 500 best in slot armor and stuff. And so that is going to be extremely exciting. And so I am looking forward to doing things like get my Black Mage and Summoner gear up to 500. About time, right? And so likewise we can now change this, and so that's going to be definitely a huge thing, is being able to change out Kupo nuts, or I mean sacks of nuts out there with Fat Hard in Yulmore, and manufactured coins, puppets coins, but this is standard fare for the patch, so that's not too shocking, but definitely a huge quality of life thing that I think is definitely important to a lot of us. And so now let's talk about some PvP updates. So Season 15 has ended and Season 16 is going to begin. And likewise, there are going to be a bunch of rewards that you are probably going to want to check out. And so we can see that the top prize is going to be a furnishing. And then you can also get wolf collars, which you can exchange for really cool looking gear. And I should say, I have not seen this gear like anywhere, and you can also get mounts from here, which is going to be this like really cool thing. What would I even call this? It's like a motorbike on steroids. And so I definitely think that it's worth checking out for sure. And I think that I rarely see any of this stuff. Like, I really, really, really rarely see this. But I think that this stuff, if you're looking for like a glamour or a mount that really pops out and stands out, I think a lot more people should be looking into this, and so check that out. But there's been updates also to Frontline, and so the preparation before a match begin has been reduced from 90 seconds to 45 seconds, and so likewise that's going to reduce time, which is going to be an advantage to everyone. And that there has been now a rotation of available campaigns, and so previously we had Borderland Ruins, we had Seal Rock, and then we had Fields of Glory. And so now what we're having is Borderland Ruins, Seal Rock, Fields of Glory, and Onzel Haker. And so that's all going to be lumped into there, as well as campaigns for Daily Challenge Frontline has been changed from being specifically Onzel Haker, and now it's going to be all four of those, including Onzel Haker. And so if you're looking for some variety and spice to your life, definitely go for that. The next thing is going to be Rival Wings, and so again, kind of following in line with Frontlines, is that the preparation time has been reduced from 90 to 45 seconds. And I think that this is a trend that is really good, because it's like, I even look at Overwatch. Previously, when in Overwatch you were like preparing for something, you had a lot of time to prepare, and they recently reduced it. And I think that that really helps, because just standing there waiting, going brr, 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 isn't that exciting. So I think that this is going to be a huge thing. Time limit has been reduced also for Rival Wings from 20 to 15 minutes, and that's going to be another thing. So by default, the maximum time is a quarter shorter. So if you're looking for something to pop in and out and know that you're going to have 15-minute time, that's huge. And coming from games like League of Legends and all that, where you don't really know how long those matches are going to be, and you're just like, hey, I just want to pop in a 15-minute match here. Now you know, okay, we know that it's going to be like 15 minutes plus like 45 seconds, and that makes things a lot more predictable. And hence, if you're looking to like squish in like 3 matches before work or 3 matches after work before you need to pick up the kids or something like that, that is going to be absolutely fantastic. And then there has been a few changes likewise to War Machina actions. I'm not going to pretend that I know these intimately, but you can see that there's going to be a lot of changes to the Cruise Chaser and Brute Justice here. And definitely, if you're into that, that's going to be a huge quality of life adjustment. Likewise, you can also see that Goblin Mercenaries now deal increased damage against mammoths, rip mammoths, and that the HP of Gob tanks has been increased, as well as the damage against mammoths. Rip mammoths. Poor mammoths are getting wrecked. Now, new items have been added to this patch, which include this dungeon set that we have already seen before from some of my past videos, but I'm definitely liking this more Ascian kind of theme. I think that this is a very neat take on it, Do I think that this is going to replace my Type 2B leggings? No. No. But I definitely think that it's a really cool look, and it is pretty distinct. It's kind of giving me a bit of Void Arc, but it's like a high quality Void Arc. It's like a 2020 update Void Arc. I like it. And then we also have new recipes added for this kind of like golf dad kind of looking appearance with like even the shoes. And even if you look at like the bottom of the pants, you can see that you have like a little roll at the bottom. It's full on ridiculous, but I do actually see myself using this set. As well as we have some updates to crafted item level 480 equipment can now be exchanged for upgraded 490 equipment. And so what you need is Yulmore and Certificate of Novelty or Undersighted Rain. And so those can be exchanged. And now your crafted gear can be upgraded a little bit to 490. And so that is definitely making the crafted gear a little bit more appealing for people who aren't really doing big on raiding and just want to optimize some of their stats. So I think that that's cool. Now the next thing is that we have Sundry Splendors, which is going to be a one-stop shop, as they say, for gear and items purchased, basically involving elegant tomestones and scripts. And I think that this is going to be such a huge advantage. Although the location of the NPC is definitely where I see a lot of people in Limbs of Lominsa AFKing and standing, and so I don't know if it's going to be the most popular NPC in town or what, but we're going to have to see. And so it's definitely going to be nice though, having just one place that we can go to, and for it to be in Limbs of Lominsa. Honestly, I've been waiting so long for this. And likewise, it's hitting all of the cities, although where's Yulmore? Where's Yulmore? I just want to buy all my like relic weapon stuff from Yulmore too. But anyhow, I think that that's going to be a huge thing. Likewise, alongside that, you have crafting material shops have been added through Ralger's Reach and Ulda, the Steps of Thal, and so that's going to be a huge benefit. We now have a sort function has been adjusted, so items with a similar function will now be arranged together when sorted. And honestly, I kind of feel that this is going to be actually really helpful. I know a lot of people, like, my initial thought was, oh, the crafted items are, like, in a similar position, and yeah, they are. But at the same point in time, it's just, like, some of the crafted items could be even more grouped together, like, in their specific sections of, like, what they're actually used for, and so I'm excited for that. The prices of certain items has been adjusted. I don't know if this is quality of life or decrease in quality of life, because if it's increased to be higher, ooh, Lord, help me. And now certain items can be sold, desensitized, or submitted for expert delivery missions. And I think that this is good, because if I look at a lot of the items that I have, a lot of it is basically like junk, where it's like I don't really know what I can do. It's like I can't sell it, I can't desynthesize it, and I can't submit it for expert delivery missions, and so it just ends up being hucked out. And so I'm looking forward to all of that. Another thing is that Zodiac weapon, basically all of the relic weapon replicas have been changed to item level of 1. I'm not sure the significance of that. I've never really cared too much about that, but apparently for some reason that was an issue, and so okay. And then it talks about reducing system stress, timing with which changes to gear durability and spirit bond or process has been adjusted. I think that this is mostly just something that is behind the scenes, like they're talking about reducing system stress. I don't think that this is going to be something that we necessarily see at the front line, but I could be wrong, but I don't think that we will, judging from just the phrasing of it. Now, materials in our inventory, and this is a huge one, can be used to search for crafting recipes. And you see, I am the type of person that literally has all my retainers filled with stuff, and if anyone, like, remind me in a future video to show that, but like I have like 9 retainers and they're all almost full. And so this feature is going to be huge. And so likewise, back searching for crafting materials, oh my god, biggest change ever for crafting for me. This is going to help me empty out my retainers so much. I'm just hoping that it lets you cross-reference other materials that you already have, because that would just make things perfect. Another thing is that trial synthesis has been added, and so this basically allows you to see how the synthesis is going to go, and so I am looking extremely forward to this. Likewise, I'm sure that you can test it just looking at the user interface here from a screenshot through the menu option and be like, hey, I want to try this with HQ materials, or like 1 HQ material or 2, and I think that this is going to be such a boon to so many people. This is going to help so many people so much, so I am so excited. Another thing is that the crafter action for collectible synthesis has been removed. Good riddance, because I can't tell you how many collectibles I did, and it's just one of those things where it's like, oh, maybe you should have been a little smarter and known to turn it on. Yeah, okay, go off. But every time you do a weekly collectible synthesis and you sometimes miss it, we're all human. But good riddance. I'm so sick of that getting in my way. And then likewise, the level 51 to 80 recipes used for collectible synthesis can no longer be used to create collectible items. And so I guess that's maybe a drawback to some people, but I think that it's just slimming down the system, and I think that makes it a lot easier to actually just get into it. And so likewise, I think that this shit's gonna be huge. Crafting window has also gotten a few changes, like using the gamepad, players can now press Y to immediately open the efficiency calculations window. Likewise, that's going to be huge for them. Display of special recipes in the crafting log has been adjusted to improve visibility, and when I see improved visibility, I really wonder like what's the stats on how many people actually did miss this before. And so more people being aware that this exists is going to be great. And then you can now specify the number of items to be crafted in the raw materials list. And so let's say that you need like 30 items, like 30 of these fleece things, or woolen dress gloves. I mean, oops, fleece. But basically now you can specify, hey, I need 30, how many materials am I going to need? And then it's just going to do all those calculations for you. And I mean, people could be like, well, I could do that in a spreadsheet. Well, you know what? Let's just slim down the process even further. I think that this is absolutely going to be great. And then we now have new custom delivery with El Toll, and so this is going to be really neat. Getting back more into the Ishgard restoration, I see it's a dragon, and so I'm hoping that it has something really cool for that. And I'm just kind of sick of these like Barbie doll NPC collectibles. Like, no offense, but it's just like I'm excited to see like a dragon or something different. It's like, I just want to see something different, and now we finally have it, thank God. And then likewise, we have a few adjustments to Rowena's Houses of Splendors, where the items designated for collectible turn-ins has been changed, and that now we have a collectible dealer in more drama, where it's going to be at X coordinate of 22.3 and Y coordinate of 6.7 in more drama. And then items requested for collectible turn-ins will no longer change on a daily rotation. And so this point is a sub point, but I want to draw attention to it, at least in what I'm saying here, is basically items listed in the collectibles exchange will no longer be given a daily bonus, and that furthermore, Rowena's House of Splendors will no longer appear in the timers window. And I think that this is actually going to be very important, because I can't tell you how many times I've been waiting for some of these collectibles to come up for a daily thing, and I've been like, so items requested for collectibles turn-ins are not changing now on a daily rotation. And I'm like waiting and waiting and waiting for it to be the one that I want. And so I look forward to this because I am sick of it being the wrong day for me. I mean, is that laziness? Maybe, but at the same point in time, it's just like if I want to do particular honey collectible or something like that, I don't want to wait until it's like the right day. It's like, meh, let me just do it now. So this now brings us to the gathering quality of life stuff. And so the auto sneak trait for Disciples of the Land has been adjusted. And so previously it would automatically activate sneak upon changing your class to Minor Botanist Fisher. And so now what happens is that now it will also change whenever you change areas. And so I think that that's going to be a huge benefit, because it's just like, let's say that you go onto Minor in like some Stormblood map, and then you go and now you're warped to like a Shadowbringers map. It's nice just because you want to keep it up all the time. Another thing is that now we are getting new gathering points added for Miner and Botanist, and that new items have likewise been added to them, as well as new fish. And so I'm really curious to see like what those new fish can do. Are they going to be used maybe in a food recipe or an alchemy potion? One can hope. Probably next patch, honestly, with the new raid cycle, but we'll have to see. And likewise, if we look back into the housing section of this video, we did see that there was that brand new fish, that big boy, and so maybe that's in there, but let's hope that fishing is a little bit more than that. And then another thing is that the display of requirements for perception-based gathering bonuses has been adjusted, and so it would say perception to gathering fortune 0%, and then perception is now HQ available. And so that is going to be a bit nice because it's just like, oh, okay, what's a gathering fortune? And now it's like a little bit more clear. Following adjustments has been made to ocean fishing, where points earned for fish you have reeled in will now be displayed, and so that's going to be pretty nice because previously you wouldn't really have that much of an idea. If I could English this morning, that would be great. And so now you have that information, and I think that's going to be an absolutely huge godsend for anyone. And that fish that award bonus points will now be awarded basically a special icon, and I think that that is going to be super useful. And so likewise you can see that it's just that little floaty jellyfish, and I think that it might change for all the fish. That could be really cool, but we'll have to see. I don't know, but I see this floaty little yellow jellyfish here and I'm like, oh, Lenos Cha-Cha Jelly. I'm just gonna say the stupid names that I've given all these locations in the map because I can't pronounce them properly. I'm trying. And then we have the requirements for catching certain fish with special conditions have been added to the fishing log. And I think that that's also another very big quality of life thing, because it's just like some of these fish you literally need to look up how to search them or how to get them from special websites online. And it's so frustrating because it's like, why do I have no indicator in-game when I'm trying to fish it in-game? And it's just like having that streamline that process is so helpful, because especially some of the times, like I know to look on a particular external website, awesome, but a lot of these newer players have absolutely no idea, and then they're stuck on this fishing thing and they're really frustrated and they're like, I don't know what's going on. Like, I can't tell you how many times that I have literally been whispered in-game with people just like, I know that you haven't made like fishing content, but can you help me figure this out? And it's been like, oh, well, you go to this website, and they're like, oh, okay, thanks, but it's not that obvious in game. So I think that that's going to be a huge thing. Likewise, whenever we're talking about fishing, we're talking about desynthesis, because you need to desynthesize all of them fish, and so now you can desynthesize one after another. You can basically queue desynthesis and do mass desynthesis, and so that is going to be huge help. I am so happy for that. Now we're going to go into a massive section that in the patch notes is called System. I'm going to call it Miscellaneous. And so we have new achievement titles have been added. Likewise, we have new patch content. They aren't saying exactly what these new ones are, but likewise, we can assume that's going to be tied to the new content. That there has now been a fashion accessories category added for things like the parasol action. And so this is going to be interesting, because it talks about future accessories, and so what are those future accessories? We're going to have to wait and see. I am personally really excited for that. And then a warning message will now be displayed if your retainer's guild limit will be exceeded when trading guild to your retainer, or when selling items on the market board, or via a mannequin. I'm not at the guild limit, so this is nice for those that need it, but it makes me feel insecure and sad. But and then other things is that there have been now new categories added for mining, botany, and fishing, and as the maximum number of shards or crystals that can be obtained from adventure has been increased. And so as someone who has 9 retainers going out all the time, this is huge. And I am really curious what is going to go on here. Next up is a limit that has sometimes hit me and been kind of frustrating, is the number of friend requests that can be sent in a day has been increased from 5 to 7. And it really sucks when you meet like a bunch of people and you want to be friends with all of them, and now I guess it's a little bit better, but 5 to 7, why the limit? Why the limit though? I mean, maybe it's to stop botting or inhibit it, but mind you, if you're like an established account, it's just like, why not? It's just like, I don't know, I haven't really been spammed friend requests in a very long time, and so why though? And then another thing is that players can now use the world visit system when joined in a cross-world party. This is going to be a huge quality of life thing, because when I'm in a cross-world party and I'm just looking to, let's take hunts for instance. Say I'm in a hunt in Gilgamesh, and then the hunt train is moving to Fairy or Cactar. I sometimes might want to be in that same group, but instead I need to like disband and run away from that group and then reform a brand new one on that other world. And so this is going to be something that I definitely think is going to be a huge quality of life that I think a lot of people are underestimating. the following additions have been made to the party finder, and so now you can basically merge your parties in the party finder. You can specify 1 player per job has been added, which I'm torn on, because again, it seems like one of the things that like reaffirms the meta is just like a group with like all the DPS spread. Like you have your magic, you have your ranged, and you have your melee. But let's say that you have like 2 machinists. Like, are you really going to be losing that much from having 2 machinists? No, not really. And like, especially if they're 2 good machinists, you're not really going to be losing anything. But I digress. Playstyle, recordable, and silence echo options have been added when searching for parties, and added to filter settings, and so that's going to be interesting, especially when you're like doing the silence echo. I think that if you're not looking for the echo buff and you want to do something a little bit more challenging, that can be nice. And then the Forbidden Land Eureka has been changed to Adventuring Forays. Adventuring cries, because we know that the Bojan Southern Front is going to be in there, and so that's going to be definitely interesting. And that the layout of the interface has been adjusted. We don't have any preview in here, but that's going to be interesting for sure. Now here comes a very important change that I have wanted for a very long time, saying the display of status effects applied by you will now take priority when appearing on a target bar or a focused target bar. So like in Eureka or in hunts, especially like when I'm playing a bard and I have those 2 damage over time effects to keep track of, I can keep track of it, because it's like, oh, I know if the one is gonna go off, I need to refresh both of them using the Iron Jaws ability. And sure, fine, but it's still nice to know when my status effects are applied. Or even more important, like when you're doing the summoner, and especially right after you summon Bahamut, you need to manually apply those 2 dots. If you say back to my summoner video, knowing that you have both of them up at the same time and like just double checking, it's like, yeah, technically your rotation, if you're really good, should always be obvious, but at the same point in time, it's nice to just have that visual recognition of just pop your eyes there for a second and then tick it back down. It's nice to have that, and I've been wanting this honestly for a long time, because it's things like the hunts and the Eureka. It's like, I don't know. Or even a better example is like Black Mage. Like if you are going into your rotation and you're feeling your fantasy, that thunder can sometimes fall off, and being able to keep track of that falling off is really important. Like I'm talking about when you're doing like 4 fire 4s, and then you hit fire, and then you do 2 fire 4s, and then you do like the HP conversion ability. Actually doesn't cost HP anymore, does it? But then you do like 4 more fire 4s. Like that's a very long time to cast Despair and then swap back to the Glacial and then reapply. And so if you have like an instant cast of the Thunder, I totally digress. It's just going to be really helpful, I think, to a lot of people, and I am looking forward to that, and I've wanted it for years. And then another thing is that the category for actions used to transfer your character has been changed from Glamour to Special. Potato. And then one thing that I think is going to be handy for PvP is that now we have the basic, how to say it, now our skills in PvP are going to include the cast time, recast time, and cost. And previously it was just like explaining like you do Fast Blade, Riot Blade for Authority, almost like it assumes that you know what is going on with that. And a lot of people like will level through PvP now, and so they don't necessarily know that. And so I think that that's going to definitely be a huge benefit. A search function has been added to the Orchestron, and so if you're looking for a particular song, that's definitely going to help you filter through a lot of that. Then you have a pull down menu of the armoire has been adjusted, and that now the inventory displays at the top of the list. And I think that's going to be a huge benefit, because inventory, sometimes that category just has a whole lot of stuff in it, so that being at the top of the list, huge perk. The display of quests with the branching dialogue and the unending journey has been adjusted. In the event, players have completed related quests that allow for special dialogue. An item will display next to the checkbox that toggles the reflection of the past progression. I needed a drink for that one. Basically, you can watch old cutscenes in an inn through something called the Unending Journey. And now, if you've completed related quests that allow for special, unique dialogue options, an icon is going to display next to that option saying, hey, this is going to reflect your quest progression with your special dialogue options. So I think that's going to really help players through not even replayability, but it's just like replaying the cutscene, because now we have replayability through full in New Game Plus, but the unending journey and being able to rewatch the cutscenes has been around for a long time now. Now is the next section that I know GPosers are going to love, and so there have been stickers added, there has been lip movements added, there has been a track camera option has been added, loop motion, there has been color filters, new frames, motions, and there's just a lot of new things in GPose that people are going to need to experience, and I'm really looking forward to this. There was a lot shown during the live letter, and I think that a lot of people are going to be really happy. And now there are a few different changes, which are the duties that can be recorded have changed, which included the Dying Gasp, Hades Elegy, and Copied Factory, and now it is going to be Hades Elegy, Copied Factory, and Eden's Verse, Refulgence, Savage. And so the Dying Gasp has basically been booted out and replaced by Eden's Verse, Savage. And so I think that that's going to help a lot of players progress, and I think that that's going to be fantastic. Anyhow, there are a few more details in the patch notes, but not things that I think that are super duper important to be talked about at this point in time. But I think that are going to definitely make a huge difference to a lot of different players in some ways. But I don't think that they're like the most relevant details, so I'm actually going to cut the video. Can I say short? It's almost been an hour. But I'm going to be cutting the video here, and now I am going to be moving into the special site, because I know that I didn't cover this before, because I didn't want to spam people with, oh, here's this video on that little thing, here's that video on that little update. Let's just go into the special site right now. And so we have a few updates. I'm not going to go over every single thing in here because I already made a video on this, but we do have some updates to the website. And so we have the patch 5.3, the Puppet's Bunker, and so it actually has its own special site here, which is like the Alliance raid in general, but in particular, this is going to be the second of the two arrow functions here, which is going to be Destiny's Diverge between Blades Black and White. The white-robed android 2P awakens at last, but so too does an unforeseen danger to Comra. But who is friend and who is foe? And what do those threatening life as dwarves... What do those threatening life as dwarves know truly desire? Answers may very well await you and your allies within the Puppet's Bunker, though you will not find them unguarded. And then it just shows a bunch of screenshots, and so we can see things like we can see 2P surrounded by a bunch of androids around themselves on the mountaintop, a little ominous. You can see the dwarves basically having like a Christmas event, and I know like if you play Nier Automata, this is reminding you of probably the like Party City area. Go back to Party City. And then you can see the raid, which is like this crashed bunker, which is looking really crazy cool. And then you can see the picture of the first boss with these runes around it, which is giving flashbacks to the original Nier games. And so that is definitely super cool. We can see that the Faux Hollows, as we saw in the patch, is going to show you a picture of Shiva, and it's showing you the weird fox head. We see the new custom deliveries dragon there. And then we can see a little bit of New Game Plus thing. We can see Trial Synthesis with a bit of screenshot here, Sundry Splendors there, and then we can see just like the Russian dance here with the glamorous there, and then the horse mount, it's not a dragon. And so I think that that about sums up everything that we can really say about patch 5.3 at this point. Really the only things that we have left are the job adjustments, and from what we heard in the live letter, we can expect monk changes next patch, apparently not this one, and that's more of a part of a concerted effort to kind of update the monk, and one that I think is well needed. And then we know that there are going to be, sadly, summoner nerfs, apparently ones that won't change the rotation, thank god. And then we can see that there are going to be planned bard buffs, which I honestly think are long overdue, because the bard is something that I really do enjoy playing, but it's flat out contributions to damage just haven't been enough. And likewise, we can expect a few other job adjustments, and I have been greatly looking forward to that. But sadly, as I said at the start of this video, we aren't going to be finding out about that for a very long time. And so likewise, that brings us to the end of this video, and thank you so much for your patience with this. And I know that this is very long, but on the other hand, I know that a lot of people like to have a little bit of context given with the patch notes, and that some people just like having it read out to them. And so this is definitely going out to everyone at work who are just trying to keep up to date almost with like what's going on. And yeah, maybe it's more podcasty style. Maybe I should start a podcast. Oh my god. But anyhow, thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope to catch you on the next one. And lots of new announcements for this channel, my website, and an ultimate guide coming very soon. I'm very excited and very tired. Anyhow, that's all for this one. Hope to catch you in the next one. Take care and have a fantastic day.